Health. I came to Casablanca for the waters.
The waters? What waters? We're in the desert.
I was misinformed.
He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
You're tearing me apart!
What?
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
We've got him, John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment, on the program with us. Always like having him on. John, a couple of big landmarks, and I don't. Some of you must just grab this because it's a good number. Landmarks that we always hold people accountable to. The first 100 days of a presidency, that seems to make a big difference. Like you can change the Titanic's path in 100 days. I don't know if that 100 is a good number, but it is. It is what it is. Your thoughts on how well Donald Trump has done in the first 100 days?
Well, he's gotten an enormous amount of stuff done. I mean, the level of activity is something that we've never seen before, certainly in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I would say if the only thing he had done was to close the southern border, he would have had the best first 3 months of any president in recent times.
Sure.
I mean, that was a huge achievement. But of course, he's done a lot more than that. We've seen the Doge effort. We've seen a lot of waste and a lot of fraud, frankly, exposed in federal spending. We've seen the whole international trade issue. Yeah. With tariffs being announced and pulled back and negotiated, and that's made people nervous for good reason. But we got to let the dust settle, it seems to me. That's an issue that has just begun to play out, and already they're starting to announce trade deals that are being finalized with various countries. The big fish here is China, and in my opinion, what he needs to do is reach agreements with everybody else, basically the EU and the Latin American countries and so forth. And to the extent that some of these trade deals have not been fair to us, let's improve them. But the real issue there, in my opinion, is that we rely on communist China for things we can't do without. That includes our pharmaceuticals. It includes critical minerals. We can't fly jet airplanes without communist China.
And there's something wrong with that.
Decides to shut down exports, we don't have an air force. That is completely unacceptable. And so we have got to separate ourselves from this reliance on the Chinese Communist Party. And it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be painless. Trump, at least, has got the courage to undertake that important task. And then, of course, you've got other areas of international relations. You've got the war in Ukraine, which Trump is doing his best to try to bring to a conclusion. And I think he's going to succeed there. I think we are going to see peace in Ukraine. And now they've announced that big mineral development deal between the U.S. and Ukraine, which I think is going to be a big boon to both countries. So that's the things I just ticked off there barely scratch the surface of everything that the administration has done in 100 days.
Can he hang on? And what I mean by this is everything pops. Oh, this is fantastic. The border would be the only thing. You do not hear the Democrats saying much about the border. It's closed down, people. It's stopped. So they love. But look at Doge. Doge comes in and the right's on fire. Look at all this stuff we're finding. And then all of a sudden, the left comes out and now they're burning down Musk cars and this sort of thing. And that the whole Doge movement now is underwater. I mean, I presume they're still working. You're not hearing it on a daily basis. The idea that the tariffs, 99% of people, I tell you, John, didn't have a clue what the tariffs were or how they worked or whether it was good for us or bad for us. Trump rips this Band-Aid off, and he's beaten up daily. It was Amazon who wanted to put, the amount of tariffs on each product you bought to kind of slam Donald down and say, see, this is what's costing you so much. Can his support hang in with him when you look at things like the stock market and go up and down, the tariff stuff? Do you think the American people have the will to go through this? The deportations now. Oh, somebody's mother took a 4-year-old child. Well, she took her kid with her. Okay. But
the hysteria is like nothing we've ever seen. Every day, the press, the whole press, virtually without exception, is just one crazed attack on President Trump and his administration after another. I mean, we've never seen anything like it. And most of the attacks are not just unfair, but downright false. You gave a good example. Oh, they deported the toddler who's an American citizen. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. His mother chose to take him to Honduras with her, as was her right. Are they saying we should be separating families at the border? I thought we didn't want to do that. I mean, they just lie about all of these issues. It's unbelievable. But your question is, okay, yeah, that's a given. We know the press is hostile to Donald Trump, no surprise. So what impact is it going to have? Will the American people hang in there? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think it's a given that the Democrats will take the House in 2026. I think the clock is ticking on things that the Trump administration is going to be able to get through Congress. And by the way, when you talk about the first 100 days, has Congress been in session?
No, not my, why they haven't passed this tax bill or the big beautiful bill or whatever. They're setting themselves up for loss, John, in my opinion. If they don't get the tax bill, get that out so that your people's taxes are lowered to hopefully take care of some of the tariff issues that are going to go on, and then land some of these tariffs things. I don't know that you give up the House in 18 months. I don't know that you do, because if people see that the market's back up, that the tariffs work, and now the costs are going down, I think there's some room. But why are these guys waiting? They're now talking July 4th. You own both sides of this thing.
Obviously there's something going on, right?
Yeah.
There's something going on. The Republicans have skinny majorities in both the House and the Senate, especially the House, really. And obviously they're having some difficulties. But Congress needs to swing into action here, right? They got to pass a budget. They got to renew the Trump tax cuts, but from back in 2017, 2018, whenever that was. And so you talk about Doge. Well, at the end of the day, it's Congress that spends money. Doge can unearth waste and unearth fraud and publicize some of these things. And I'll tell you, I thought I was cynical about the quality of government spending, but I wasn't cynical enough. I mean,
you hadn't figured.
Some of the things we've learned are just shocking. But at the end of the day, Congress has got to pass a budget that is lower. If they don't, Doge can jump up and down, but Congress spends the money. So that's a huge missing piece so far.
Yeah. And you said it. It's a small majority in the House and Senate, but I believe I'm quoting our governor, paraphrasing it best, when he said, you give me a one-seat majority, that's a majority. And you saw what they did 2 years ago when they had that in Minnesota. Your thoughts, if we can shift now, the state of the state. Governor Walz comes in. Thank you for keeping it 26 minutes long. That was probably the best part of this whole thing. I said on the show, I think it was with you, if he goes after Orange Man bad, and that's his speech, I think he's running for president. He did that, but now it looks like he's going to run for the governorship. Is he just a rudderless ship right now? He's not sure what he's doing?
Well, I think that Tim Walz doesn't want to talk about the state of the state because it's not good after 6 years of his administration. Yeah, it was a bizarre speech. He used practically the entire time to just launch this crazed attack on Donald Trump. Well, that's not part of his job. His job is to be the governor of the state of Minnesota. And his ostensible purpose was to talk about the state of our state. And he didn't do it. And the reason he didn't do it is because under his leadership, Minnesota is declining economically. We are now below average. Our economy is below average compared to the United States as a whole for the first time ever. Our schools are getting worse. Half of our kids can neither read nor do math at grade level. Crime has risen. We are now a high crime state for the first time ever in our history. That's never been true before. And so the last thing Tim Walz wants to talk about is the state of the state. But as you say, Al, it looks like he's going to run for a third term as governor.
Well, that, and also the fact that Angie Craig, Representative Craig, is now going to run for that Senate seat. That's laying some dominoes out that you and I should talk about on the other side of the break. Can we do that? Things are setting up here in Minnesota. Can we talk?
Absolutely.
I got him. John Hinderaker, president of the American Experiment.
All the special interests are represented in St. Paul. But who speaks for you? Center of the American Experiment does. Our policy fellows dig into the tough issues that matter to you and offer common sense solutions on education, taxes, crime, and energy. American Experiment is the trusted, nonpartisan voice of Minnesotans like you. We are working every day to make Minnesota a better, safer, more prosperous place. We are American Experiment. Go to americanexperiment.org to learn more.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc., Midwest Money Management, and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
Easily offended? The Al Travis Show is not for you. The Al Travis Show. All sides are welcome.
We've got him, John Hinderaker, president of the American Hispanic Brand. John, you mentioned the state of the state and how all these different things are really not boding well for the governor or the state of Minnesota. You also throw out that Keith Ellison, your attorney general, is literally sitting in the hot seat talking about what's happened with feeding your fishery, what do you know, when, and how. My oh so humble opinion, it's been a while since Minnesota has had the opportunity to put a Republican in a statewide office, right? I mean, it's just what else you need to line up for you, but yet I don't see a name coming out. What I want to throw at you, governor goes, I'm going to go back for governor. Okay, the other Democrats will be out of that. There might be somebody try to primary, but it's not going to happen. But up in for the Senate seat, Craig moves over through $1.2 million. I'm putting her in as a front runner now. She's got all the money, and people just love that woman. Nothing wrong with that. But Lieutenant Governor Flanagan is in there, and so is Lopez. They're lining up to get Craig's seat on the left side. I can't throw you a lot of names, John, from the Republican side that should be lining up for this great opportunity.
Well, I live in CD too, Al, and I don't know. I have not been hearing names. You're probably ahead of me here, but I don't have any clue who's going to run for that seat on either the Democrat side or the Republican side. And there are names that swirl around for both the governor's race and the Senate race on the Republican side. But somebody's got to jump in. Somebody's got to declare and start marshaling support and get serious about making that race. There are a number of Republicans who are deliberating and thinking about it and wondering, should I run for this office or that office? And I think the time is very rapidly coming when they need to make up their minds and jump into a race. I do think on the Senate side, Angie Craig is far and away the favorite for the DFL nomination. I think she's the most clever politician that the Democrats have in this state. I'm a constituent of hers. I'm on her email list. And my golly, you would swear she's a Republican. When she communicates with her constituents, all she talks about is gotta cut that wasteful spending. Ooh, tax cuts. I'm here fighting for tax cuts. Angie Craig has never voted for a tax cut in her life. but she runs under a false flag, and apparently some people buy it. So she's a very clever politician, and certainly is the favorite to win that seat.
Well, again, I just got to get some Republicans out there because they're not nation or statewide known, most of them. If you're a senator from your neck of the woods and people know you, or a House person, you've got to get across this state. The people we've been talking about, everybody knows them: lieutenant governor, representatives, and senators, the governor. All right, one last thing before I let you go, John. You did an event last week, a webinar about the Feeding Our Futures scandal, debacle, with Bill Glahn. And that story just keeps on giving. How did that go, the online deal? And then you had Ellison on the hot seat this week for the same thing. How are things going? That story never stops.
Well, the webinar, our listeners can go to AmericanExperiment.org and track it down. We posted it there. It's on YouTube. Okay. It's on our website, AmericanExperiment.org. Lasts for an hour. You can watch the whole thing. And basically Ellison is now doing the Sergeant Schultz routine. I was a vulnerable.
I know nothing. I know nothing.
I know nothing. I know nothing. Why are you asking me questions? And he's counting on the fact that very few people have actually listened to that tape, 54 minutes long. Very few people have listened to it. And if you do listen to it, what you find is he knows perfectly well who he's meeting with. Several of the people in the room he already knew. In fact, Bill Glahn posted a selfie that Ellison himself took that includes three people who were in that meeting, and on a different occasion. And he is on their side. They come to him to complain. This is 5 weeks before the FBI raid, so the walls are closing in on the fraudsters. They come to him to try to get him to call off the Department of Education, which is trying to clamp down on the fraud. And Ellison is right there with them. He says, I'm on your side. He says, let's fight this together. He says, Tim Walz agrees with me about this piddly stuff. He refers to the Feeding Our Future scandal as piddly stuff. So, I mean, if you actually listen to the tape recording, it completely contradicts everything that Keith Ellison has said publicly.
What he got me on the stand is when he said, it's a big organization. I don't know about every last detail about what's going on. And Feeding Our Futures wasn't a household name, back those days. And I think to yourself, you're the head guy. You have the Monday morning meeting. And somebody on your staff happens to mention the FBI has been chatting with us about a small thing called Feeding Our Future. Now, he doesn't have to know who runs it, doesn't have to know the details, but you tell me the largest fraud case in the country is happening under Ellison's nose. And he's like, no one brought it up. It didn't bubble up to me enough that I would recognize it. I find that hard to believe.
Well, real quick, Al, that's also the lawsuit, the Feeding Our Future lawsuit against the Department of Education, in which the Department of Education, Tim Walz's client, was held to be in contempt of court. That is a huge deal. I practiced law. I did nothing but litigation for 41 years. I never had a case in which any party was ever held in contempt of court. That is rare. It is huge. If that happened to a client of the state of Minnesota, of the AG's office, he would have known about it within 15 minutes.
Well, that's what I said. You don't have to know every detail, but you know the highlights because that's the Monday morning meeting. One last thing before I let you go, because I told my wife about this the other day that because she was watching this Scott Jennings, one of the little videos that showed up on her phone. She goes, this guy's hilarious. Have you seen it? I said, yeah, and he's going to be at the American Experiment's annual gala, which is only a couple weeks away. Can people still get tickets? She couldn't believe you have this guy.
You can still get tickets. Go to AmericanExperiment.org, click where it says events at the top of the page. It'll take you to a place where you can buy tickets to our annual dinner. It is Saturday, May 17th. Scott Jennings is going to be the featured speaker. It's going to be a fun event. We've got some surprises planned. Last year's event with Naftali Bennett, former Prime Minister of Israel, was very serious. This event, it's going to, there'll be some serious conversation, but it's going to be fun. And so I really hope some of our listeners will go to AmericanExperiment.org and sign up.
My wife was just I said, yeah, I know the guy who's got him in town. She was just stunned. Minneapolis annual dinner, the gala with Scott Jennings, May 17th at 5:30. Thank you, John, very much for coming on the program. I love having you on. Appreciate you.
Great to be with you, Al.
All the special interests are